This time we spoke of hyperemia of the pulp with no proof that hyperemia occurred. It was not until 1965 that Beveridge and Brown, followed by Van Hassel, demonstrated changes in intrapulpal pressures that were related to a number of clinical variables, including inflammation. Before this time, we spoke of hyperemia of pulp with no proof that hyperemia occurred. It was not until 1965 that Beveridge and Brown, followed by Van Hassel, demonstrated changes in intrapulpal pressures that were related to a number of clinical variables, including inflammation. Urban also changed the nomenclature for periapical disease, basing it on his classification of periodontitis for periodontal disease. Inflammation of the periodontium anywhere is periodontitis. Inflammation of the periodontium anywhere is periodontitis. We would say it is apical periodontitis at the apex of the tooth, just as it is marginal periodontitis at the alveolar crest. Before Orban, we spoke of pyorrhea and trench mouth or Vincent's disease. Before Orban, we spoke of pyorrhea and trench mouth or Vincent's disease. So changes in nomenclature informed by critical observation helped to form a background for an avalanche of research efforts that placed endodontics on a much more scientific footing. So changes in nomenclature informed by critical observation helped to form a background for an avalanche of research efforts that placed endodontics on much more scientific footing. Instrument design and standardization. Until 1957, most endodontic instruments came in 6 sizes, 1 through 6. There were files that were to be used in a push-pull rasping motion, and reamers that were to be used in rotary motion. There was no standardization within a size or between sizes or among manufacturers. The design of most files and reamers was based on the original design developed by Kerr-Co in 1904. More than a half century before. You can see in the figure 1. That is the figure 1. The original Kerr reamer 1904 tilted a brooch at that time is the origin of today K-style instruments reproduced with permission from Kerr Dental Manufacturing Corporation 1904 catalog. This is the Kerr brooch, magnified many times. Note the triple cutting edges. full cutting edge. You can see, right? Hence the designation K-files and K-reamers. The only variation was the Swedish headstrong file, shaped like a wood screw. The only variation was the Swedish headstrong file shaped like a file, shaped like a wood screw. And of course there was also the ubiquitous brooch that came in small, medium and large sizes. Change was called for. In 1957, a plea went out to the profession and the manufacturers to standardize endodontic instruments. It was answered by a Swiss company, and a study was undertaken to develop a standard that all manufacturers would adhere to and that would be accepted by the profession. In 1958, a proposal was introduced to standardize the taper of instruments as well as the length. In 1958, a proposal was introduced to standardize the taper of instruments as well as the length. In addition, based on the metric system, a formula for graduated increment in size from one instrument to next was developed. In addition, based on the metric system, a formula for a graduated increment in size from one instrument to the next was developed. The new numbering system allowed for numbers from 10 to 100 based on the tip diameter. The new numbering system allowed for numbers from 10 to 100 based on the tip diameter. #10 for a tip size of 0.1 mm to #100 for a tip size of 1 mm. The cutting blades were to extend up to the shaft for 16 mm, and the advance in taper was to be a gain of 0.3 mm, which figured out to be an increase of 0.01875 mm per mm. You can see in the figure 2. The figure 2 original recommendation for standardized instruments. The number of the instrument is determined by the diameter size at D1 in hundredths of millimeters. Diameter 2, that is D2, is uniformly 0.32 mm greater than the D1 and a gain of 0.02 mm per 1 mm of cutting blades. You can see here the figures, that is the picture. D1 means diameter size at diameter size, which diameter size at D1. That means the instrument number is determined by the D1. The D2 means 60. It is D2 means it is uniformly 0.32 mm greater than the D1, right? and a gain of 0.2 mm per 1 mm of cutting blades is there. This is the, you can see different types of this one endodontic instruments. The figure soon became clumsy for manufacturing and was changed to 0.02 mm per mm. That means for every 2 mm increase, for every mm increase, there is 0.02 mm increase in taper. Hence, these new standardized instruments came to be known as 0.02 instruments. At first, most companies were unwilling to junk all their overage machines that produced instruments, while one Swiss company that cracked the change began to capture the market. At first, most companies were unwilling to junk all their overage machines that produced instruments, while one Swiss company that backed the change began to capture the market. When the newly designed instruments were designated as international standard by the International Standards Organization, all the companies worldwide changed their manufacture to the new standard that remains the standard today. For a number of years, there was not much movement in instrument design. For a number of years, there was not much movement in instrument design, and then it blossomed. Today, there is a plethora of design changes as well as size changes. The standard 0.02 taper instrument has now been joined by 0.04, 0.06, 0.08, even up to 0.12 mm per mm. Now the standard 0.02 taper instruments has now been joined by 0.04, 0.06, 0.08, even up to 1.2 mm per mm tapers. The original K-style instruments have been joined by a colony of other designs. A few proved impractical and have disappeared from the market. Carbon steel gave way to stainless steel. Carbon steel gave way to stainless steel that is now being challenged by nickel titanium, with probably more to come. Very important. Finger powdered instruments, although they still have their place, are slowly beginning. Although finger powdered instruments, although they still have their place, are slowly being overtaken by electric powered rotary instruments. Finger powered instruments, although they still have their place, are slowly being overtaken by electric powered rotary instruments. According to an anonymous industry representative, in 1996, less than 1 million nickel titanium rotary instruments were sold in the United States, compared to 20 million stainless steel instruments. In 8 years, by 2004, sales of nickel titanium rotary files has had jumped from 1 million to 11.4 million, and by 2006 to 13.4 million. At the same time, 2004 and 2006 sales of stainless instruments reached a plateau of 23.5 and 24 million respectively. With these two examples of change that has taken place in endodontics, it is obvious that there will be more in the future. It is obvious that there will be more in the future. Present standing of endodontics. Present standing of endodontics. Speaking of change, what has been the impact on endodontics from the present rush toward implants? Speaking of change, what has been the impact on endodontics from the present rush toward implants? At a time when successful outcome in endodontics has vastly improved, when the stigma of painful root canal therapy is disappearing, when the stigma of painful root canal therapy is disappearing, when treatment time has been shortened, and when endodontic fees compare so favorably to implant and prosthetic fees, one wonders why this move towards implants. Conversations among endodontists often include comments about situations in which patients have been advised by general dentists or specialists in, for example, periodontics, that a tooth an endodontist might consider suitable for treatment should instead be replaced with an implant. Periodontics, that a tooth an endodontist might consider suitable for treatment should instead be replaced with an implant. This has become a disturbing trend, and the specialty of endodontics faces a challenge to educate both colleagues in dentistry and patients about the demonstrated benefits in maintaining the natural teeth. About patients about the demonstrated benefits in maintaining the natural teeth. In Chapter 4, Dr. Mahmoud Tora bin Zad addresses this controversy that highlights the importance of involvement by the endodontic community. Such involvement also includes incorporating the area of implant dentistry into the scope of practice for endodontics. Incorporating the area of implant dentistry into the scope of practice for endodontists. In Chapter 33, Doctors Jamie Lozada and Alessandro Kleinman describe the procedures involved in replacing a tooth that cannot be retained. For example, Due to vertical root fracture, many endodontists are beginning to incorporate implant dentistry in their practices. What then is the present standing of endodontics? What then is the present standing of endodontics with the profession, with the public? Let us look at some interesting facts. Definition of endodontics. First, we have better define endodontics. What is endodontology, or what encompasses, that means what comprises the practice of endodontics. The best definition may be modified from the definition by the American Association of the Endodontists. Endodontics is that branch of dentistry that is concerned with the morphology, physiology, and pathology of the human dental pulp and periradicular tissues. Its study and practice encompasses the basic clinical sciences, including biology of the normal pulp, the etiology, the diagnosis, prevention, and treatment of diseases and injuries of the pulp and associated periradicular conditions. And endodontics is that branch of dentistry that is concerned with the morphology, physiology, and pathology of the human dental pulp and periradicular tissues. Its study and practice encompasses the basic clinical sciences, including the biology of the normal pulp, the etiology, diagnosis, prevention, and treatment of the diseases and injuries of the pulp and associated periradicular conditions. The scope of endodontics includes but is not limited to includes the differential diagnosis and treatment of oral pain of pulpal or periradicular origin, vital pulp therapy such as pulp capping and pulpotomy, non-surgical treatment of root canal systems with or without periradicular pathosis of pulpal origin, and the obturation of these root canal systems, selective surgical removal of pathological tissues resulting from pulpal pathosis, repair procedures related to such surgical removal of pathological tissues, intentional replantation and replantation of avulsed tooth, surgical removal of tooth structure such as root end resection and root end filling, endodontic implants, bleaching of discolored dentin and enamel, retreatment of teeth previously treated endodontically, and treatment procedures related to coronal restorations by means of post and or course involving the root canal space, and treatment procedures related to the coronal restorations by means of post and or course involving the root canal space. The endodontic specialist is responsible for the advancement of endodontic knowledge through research, The transmission of knowledge concerning the most recent advances in biologically acceptable procedures and materials, and the education of the public as to the importance of endodontics in keeping dentition in a physiologically functional state for the maintenance of oral and systemic health. This is the duties of the endodontic specialist. He is responsible for advancement of endodontic knowledge through research, the transmission of information concerning the most recent advances in biologically acceptable procedures and materials, and the education of the public as to the importance of endodontics in keeping the dentition in a physiologically functional state and for the maintenance of oral and systemic health. Right? Till now we have discussed about the definition of endodontics, the scope of endodontics, and the responsibility of an endodontic specialist. To this one might add the diagnosis of extraoral preferred pain, the management of traumatic injuries to the teeth, the biopsy of pathological tissues, and the growing recognition of pathological conditions between the maxillary posterior teeth and the maxillary sinus. To this one might add the diagnosis of extraoral preferred pain, the management of traumatic injuries to the teeth, the biopsy of the pathological tissues, and the growing recognition of pathological conditions between the maxillary posterior teeth and the maxillary sinus. Recent attitudes toward dentistry and endodontic therapy. Recent attitudes toward dentistry and endodontic therapy. Increasingly, the term root canal has become fashionable and generally known. In conversation, people proudly proclaim that they have had a root canal. The stigmata of fear and pain are fast disappearing. The stigmata of fear and pain are fast disappearing. Another impressive factor in the acceptance of endodontics is television. Another impressive factor in the acceptance of endodontics is television. Countless advertisements emphasize a beautiful smile, not just toothpaste advertisements, but commercials in every field, from bukes to beer, bukes to beer, but commercials in every field, from bukes to beer. At the same time, the constant barrage of denture adhesives and the cleanser advertisements produces a chilling effect. But at the same time, the constant barrage of denture adhesives and cleanser advertisements produces a chilling effect. The public sees the problems that develop from the loss of teeth, obvious missing teeth, or anathema. There is no question that the public's acceptance of endodontic therapy, there is no question that the Public's acceptance of endodontic treatment is on the rise. In 1969, for example, the American Dental Association (ADA) estimated that 6 million teeth were treated endodontically each year. By 1990, the ADA reported 20,754,000 endodontic procedures, or 2.1 percentage of all dental procedures. By 1999, they reported that total endodontic activity has increased to 21,932,800 procedures, but now accounted for only 1.7% of the total dental procedures. That numbered 1 billion. That number 1 billion 200 and 250 100,000 procedures. This upward trend was also documented by the Public Affairs Committee of the AAE, that is American Association of Endodontists, reporting on the surveys of the general public made by the Opinion Research Institute in 1984 and 1986. The committee noted that 28% of 1,000 telephone respondents reported that they had had root canal therapy by 1986, an increase of 5% points over the 23% reported in 1984. Also, in 1986, 62% said that they would choose root canal therapy over extraction, an increase of 10% points over the 52% in the 1984. More than half the respondents, that is, say 53%, believed that an endodontically treated tooth would last a lifetime. 20 years later, in 2006, means from 1986 to that is 20 years later, from 1986, that is in 2006, the AAE, American Association of Endodontists, was reporting similar positive figures. On the other hand, 63% of respondents described root canal therapy as painful. It turned out, however, that the respondents who had had root canal therapy were 6 times more likely to describe the procedure as painless than the cohort who had never had root canal treatment. In other words, patients have been shown to anticipate, means predict more pain than they will actually experience during endodontic therapy. In other words, patients have been shown to anticipate more pain than they will actually experience during endodontic treatment. Clearly, The profession has a mission to continue educating the public to reverse its image of endodontics and promote the value of an endodontically treated tooth. The rate of use of these the rate of the use of endodontic services similar to the rate in the United States, say 28%, was reported from Norway also, where 27% of an older age group, that is in the age group between 66 to 75 years, had root canal therapy, as had 12% of a younger age group 26 to 35 years. Incidentally, 100% of the root-filled teeth in the younger group were still present 10 to 17 years later, a remarkable achievement. The growth in endodontic services is also reflected in the sales of endodontic equipments. The growth of endodontic services is also reflected in the sales of endodontic equipments, supplies, and instruments. In 1984, according to the anonymous industry representative, endodontics was a $20 billion market, growing at a rate of 4% per year. By 1997, 30 years later, the endodontic market, through the dental retail stores alone, was $72 billion, up from $65.6 billion in 1996, a growth of nearly 10%. One must add to this sales another 10% to account for mail order or telephone sales, a grand total of nearly $80 million in 1997. Worldwide sales were probably double this figure. In the year 2005, it was revealed that total endodontic sales exceeded $200 million in the US alone and $400 million worldwide. Future of endodontics as a specialty. Every 4 years, the American Dental Association Survey Center publishes a review of all aspects of dentistry, including a report entitled "The Economics of Endodontics", In this report, the survey center covers endodontic services and utilization, growth of the specialty, location of the endodontists, characteristics of endodontists, finances, referrals, and a look at the future. The latest report was published in 2003, covering the years through 1999, with a few references in the years 2000 and 2001. portions of the report was portions portions of the report were published in the Journal of Endodontics in 2006. The report paints a rather pleasant picture of the present, but voices some concerns about the distant future. But voices some concerns about the distant future. Some concerns had not developed by 1999, such as the impact implants would have on the practice of endodontics. The report also predicted that the population of the United States would not reach 300 million until 2010. The report also predicted that the population of the United States would not reach 300 million until 2010, when in reality this figure was reached in October of 2006. On the whole, however, their concern for the future bear review and attention. One change in relationship arising is between the specialty and general practitioners. For instance, the ratio between general dentists and endodontists is dropping. The ratio between general dentists and endodontists is dropping. In 1982, there were 50.3 possible referring general dentists to each endodontist, but by 2002, the ratio was down to 34.5 and falling. You can see in the figure 3. This is the figure 3, the ratio of general practitioners to endodontists from 1982 to 2002. This is extracted from the American Dental Association Survey Center, 1982 to 2002. Distribution of dentists in the United States by region and state. Although general dentists perform about 75% of all the endodontic procedures, they still refer 25% to the endodontists. Whether this will change is open to speculation, means it is for review. The number of endodontists has grown at a faster rate than any other dental specialty. The number of endodontists has grown at a faster rate than any other dental specialty. Between 1982 and 2002, the number of professionally active endodontists had increased by 85%. In contrast, general practitioners grew at a rate of 33% from 1982 to 2002. Failing resumes impacting and increasing antibiotics may not be predictable at this time. Failing resumes impacting and increasing antibiotics. Failing resumes means increasing antibiotics may not be. Failing resumes impacting an increase in endodontics may not be predictable at this time, whereas the age of patients in the future is predictable. Whereas the age of patients in the future is predictable. Saying that the failing resumes impacting and increasing antibiotics is not may not be predictable at this time, whereas the age of patients in the future is predictable. Most root canal treatments is performed for patients between the ages of 25 and 64, particularly molar endodontics, done mostly by endodontists. You can see in the figure 7. You can see in the figure 7 root canal treatments by age. Mostly these are more in between 24 and to 34 years. This is more, right? (25 and 64), mostly between 25 and 64. Primer, particularly molar endodontics, done mostly by the endodontist. You can see in the figure 7, right? Unfortunately, projected future change in the US population shows a severe drop off in the very age groups most prone to endodontic therapy. You can see in the figure 8. The figure 8 showing projected change in the US population from 2000 to 2020. This is how the age change in the population will be. Unfortunately, projected future change in the US population shows a severe drop off in the very age groups most prone to endodontic therapy. You can see in the figure 8. So this population shift may reduce the number of patients seeking endodontic services. At the same time, the number of referring dentists referring general dentists is decreasing. At the same time, the number of referring general dentists is decreasing. It is possible that the aging population, say less than 64 years, will provide an increasing pool of patients needing endodontic services. The present good news is that in the years 1997 and 1998, the endodontists enjoyed an average net income of $100,000, second only to oral surgeons. A surprising figure considering average gross endodontist billings of $491,550. You can see in the figure 9. Average net income of specialists 1990 and 1997 to 1998. Source from American Dental Association Survey Center. Oral and maxillofacial surgeons the most followed by the endodontists, followed by orthodontists, followed by pediatric dentists, followed by periodontists, followed by prosthodontists, followed by general practitioners. Only general practitioners and pediatric dentists reported lower billings. The reason is endodontic office expenses were exceptionally low. The reason is endodontic office expenses were exceptionally low. Right? That is 237,320 lowest of all dentists. The average endodontic office employs only 0.56 non-dentist staff. We can see in figure 10. The average endodontic office employs only 5.6 non-dentist staff. You can see in the figure 10. This is the figure 10 showing the average practice expenses per owner in 1992 and 1997 or 1998. This is more for pediatric dentists than for general dentists. Right? But remember, these figures, even though they are the latest available, are nearly 10 years old. In spite of many encouraging figures for the present practice of endodontics, in spite of many encouraging figures for the present practice of endodontics, the future may not be as rosy. For example, the rate of dental caries is declining precipitously, and to a great extent, pulpal disease leading to endodontic treatment is driven by the index of dental caries. Pulpal disease leading to endodontic treatment is driven by index of dental caries. Early in the 1970s, only 28% of the permanent teeth of Americans' children were caries free. Then in 1988, the National Institute of Dental and Craniofacial Research (NIDCR) proudly announced that half of all children in the United States aged 5 to 7 years had no decay in their permanent teeth. None. Then again, between 1999 and 2002, the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey (NHA-NES) reported that 62% of the children and adolescents aged 6 to 19 years were caries free in their permanent teeth. And as reported in the NHA-NES, between 1974 and 1994, and as reported in the NHANES between 1974 and 1994, the number of decade missing filled DMF permanent teeth in children not carelessly aged 6 to 18 years decreased from 4 decreased from 4.44 to 1.90, increased 57.2%. The number of DMF permanent surfaces also decreased from 8.64 to 3.56, say 58.8% during this period. In the year 2003, however, tooth decay was rising, reported as 78% of adolescents, perhaps indicating an emerging problem for older children consuming junk food and sugary drinks. Consuming junk food and sugary drinks. As far as older adults are concerned, the NIDCR reported a remarkable decline in edentulism as well, particularly in the middle-aged, a group in which total tooth loss has been practically eliminated. The total tooth loss has been practically eliminated. Indeed, means really, during the 1999 to 2002 survey, adults older than 20 years retained an average of 24 to retained an average of 24 of 28 natural teeth. The survey adults older than 20 years retained an average of 24 of 28 natural teeth, and only 8% were edentulous. The elderly, say age 65 and older, however, are still in serious trouble. Root caries and periodontal disease being the primary offenders. A recent study of 398 elderly women showed 36.4% were edentulous and 80.7% of the dentate women had periodontal disease. It is likely that endodontists will share a greater part of the burden carrying for our aging population. In addition, as the growing immigrant population in the United States becomes more affluent, it will increasingly seek care. All of these encouraging figures suggest greater preventive measures and higher use of dental services by the public. Part of the improvement can be credited to a healthier economy and lifestyle, part to the national water supply and dentifrice fluoridation programs, part to the dental profession's efforts, and part to dental insurance. A research has shown that third-party payment has increased the dental use and has improved oral health. By 1995, the ADA estimated that 63% of all US citizens were covered by a private insurance program. By 1995, the ADA estimated that 63% of all US citizens were covered by a private insurance program and another 5.3% by public assistance. The remaining 31.4% were not covered by any insurance program. Regardless, costs are high. In 2003, 43.1% of dental expenditures were paid by private insurance and 48.2% were paid out of pocket. Government programs such as Medicaid and Medicare paid the remaining 8.2%. However, for endodontics in particular, approximately 70% of patients were covered by a private insurance program. In providing these burgeoning services, the dental profession has fared well financially. From 1986 to 1995, the net income of dentists increased by 30.7%. In 2003, the ADA reported that dentists annually averaged $177,340 net, a 31% increase from 1986. When adjusted for 2003 dollars, dental expenditures by the public have also increased from $3.4 billion in 1967 to $10 billion in 1977 to $25.3 billion in 1987 to $47.5 billion in 1996 and to $67 billion in 2003. The expenditure for dental services has increased by 509% from 1975 to 2005. After all this expenditure and care, one is hard pressed. After all this expenditure and care, one is hard pressed to explain why 15.1 million workdays are lost annually because of dental pain. After all this expenditure and care, one is hard pressed to explain why 15.1 million workdays are lost annually because of dental pain.